Your next witness, please.
Treveon Glass.
Yes, good morning. Are you Mr. Glass? Are you Mr. Glass?
Sir.
Welcome. This is our witness stand over here. Why don't you come to the witness stand? What I'd like you to do is remain standing. Raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you should give in this case should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your full legal name for the record.
Treveon.
Please spell your first and last name for the court reporter.
Treveon.
Thank you.
Please have a seat. Mr. Glass, that microphone in front of you will only adjust up or down. It doesn't move back and forth. All right, so if you could scoot up close to the microphone. All right, you ready to proceed, sir? Counsel, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Glass.
Good morning.
And I know you're quite soft-spoken, so I'm going to need you to speak out a little louder, okay? And remember, you have to make oral responses, okay?
Yes.
How old are you?
23.
And where are you currently living? What city?
Real Beach.
And have you lived there all your life?
Majority of it.
Okay. You completed high school, or what was the last grade you completed?
11.
Right. You're not married, correct?
Excuse me?
You're not married?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about some prior stuff before we get into why you're here today. Have you previously been convicted of a felony? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And how many times?
To my best of knowledge, once.
Okay. If I were to show you something, would that refresh your recollection?
Yeah.
A prior judgment? Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
Show counsel first, please.
Yes. I'm going to ask you to just look at the document, don't say anything. Okay? Have you had an opportunity to review the document? You have to answer.
Yes.
Right? Is your memory fresh as to how many convictions you have?
2. Or was that 1? The other one? I'm not sure. Let's see, 2 charges.
All right. Now, you currently have some pending charges in Indian River County, correct?
Yeah.
And those are 2 charges:
Yeah.
misdemeanor resisting without violence
Yeah.
and an obstruction of service or execution of a search warrant.
Yeah.
Are those misdemeanors or felonies?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you know what the penalty you're facing on those charges?
No.
Okay. Have you been offered probation in that case?
Yeah.
And have you been made any promises in exchange for your testimony here today?
No.
All right. So let's go back to October 26th of 2018. What were you doing like for work?
I wasn't working at all.
All right. Were you involved in the music business at all?
Kind of, sort of.
And how so?
Making beats.
All right. And when you were making beats, were you working with a specific group or music group or people?
One person to be particular, but yeah, supposed to be in a group.
All right. Let's start by saying this. What group was it?
YNW.
All right. And when you said one person specifically, who was that person?
Juvy.
Okay. And can you tell the members of Judy's real name?
Christopher Thomas.
And how long had you known Christopher Thomas, who you refer to as Judy?
Over a decade.
Okay. And this is back in October. And did you know somebody by the name of Anthony Williams who went by Sack Chaser?
Yeah.
And how long had you known Sack Chaser?
A couple years.
All right. Your Honor, permission to approach the witness with state 73.
It's in evidence, yes?
Yes.
You may proceed.
Treveon, I'm going to ask you to take a look at state's photograph number 4 and state 73. Do you recognize that person in the state's photograph with the label marking 18-3118?
I do.
And who is that?
Anthony Williams.
So, back on October 26, 2018, do you recall being at the New Era studio?
Yeah.
Who were you there with?
You other people.
Okay. Was Juvy and Sack there?
Correct.
All right. And do you recall around what time you guys got to the studio?
I'm not sure when we arrived.
Okay.
I don't.
Was it light or dark outside?
I believe it was dark. I'm not sure.
All right. And what was the intention going to the studio?
I believe we were supposed to have a 12-hour session.
All right. And that's a 12-hour recording session, right?
Yeah.
And who was the artist that was recording that night?
Really, everybody was artists. And
All right. Did you guys end up staying for 12 hours?
nah,
Okay. What changed and why didn't you end up staying?
to the best of my knowledge, people was sleeping, so we ended up going home because, sleep in the studio.
All right. And part of that is because studio time is obviously,
Paid
it's costly, right?
Objection to leave.
Stay.
Okay. You just said it was paid for. What was paid for?
Studio time.
All right. So you guys had prepaid for 12 hours.
Correct.
And obviously not utilizing that 12 hours, is that a waste?
Objection, Your Honor.
Stay.
Deleting.
I'll move on. How long, well, you said that people were sleeping. Who was sleeping?
Everybody but me, Anthony, and Chris.
All right. So who was upset that people were sleeping?
Objection, leading.
Who was upset overruled?
There was no testimony that anybody was upset.
Can you rephrase your question?
Was someone upset that people were sleeping?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
And who was that person?
Sad.
Okay. And how did SAC respond? How did SAC respond to people sleeping?
You woke him up and let him know it's time to go.
All right. And how did he do that?
Yeah, he went and woke him up, shook him up.
All right. Was there an occasion where he threw water on some people to wake them up?
Objection, Your Honor.
Stay.
Your Honor, this is deliberate. Can we go
Excuse me.
sidebar, please?
Counsel, if you make an objection, make an objection. Don't be argue in front of the jury. I told you that before.
I
All right?
understand. Can we go sidebar?
No speaking objections.
Can we
Come
go
sidebar.
sidebar?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so at some point, you just mentioned that you guys were getting ready to leave the studio.
Yeah.
Publishing states 72. I published image number 1 in state 72. Mr. Glass, can you see that photo on the screen in front of you?
Yes.
Okay. And who's that person?
The best of my knowledge, Melly.
Okay. And the person I'm referring to, what is he wearing?
A jacket.
All right. Do you recognize the person on the other side of the photograph wearing what appears to be a black shirt?
Kind of, sort of.
If you do.
No, I don't.
Okay. Publishing image number 2. Do you recognize the individuals in that photograph?
Three of them, yeah.
Okay, so what you can do is identify them by the clothing that they're wearing.
Juvy, black jacket in the left, sack in the middle, jean jacket, Tay, black jacket.
And Sack is he standing or sitting?
Sit,
And Tay, is he standing or sitting?
sit,
And you said Cortlen was wearing the black jacket. Is he standing or sitting?
who?
Oh, how did you refer to him? My apologies.
Tay
No.
or Juvy?
The person wearing the black jacket, who did you identify that as?
Juvy wearing black jacket. Also, is Tay wearing black jacket?
The person wearing the black jacket who's standing up, do you recognize that individual?
Chris.
Okay. Do you recognize the people in photograph image 3?
Same one you just showed. Same person.
And who's that person?
Melly.
The 3 images that were just shown from state 72, do you recall when those photographs were taken?
Same night.
Would that be, what date would that be?
10/26.
Of 2018?
Yeah.
What location were those photographs taken in?
New Era Promotions studio.
Was that the studio we just discussed that you guys were hanging out at?
Yeah.
I'm now publishing state 7. Publishing 10/26/2018, beginning at timestamp 2/17/42. Mr. Glass, do you recognize the 2 individuals in this screen pause at 2/17/47?
Do I recognize the back of the head?
Yes, do you recognize them?
I just see it back of the head.
Okay, I'm going to continue to play. Do you recognize anyone at timestamp 2/17/52?
Still back of the head.
Do you see an individual standing next to a red vehicle?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, you just said that's who?
Cool.
All right. And what is Kobe's real name?
That's what I know him by. Cool.
All right. Would anything refresh your recollection as to his legal name?
I don't know.
If I were to show you your prior statement, would that refresh your recollection?
Good.
Permission to approach the witness?
You may.
Mr. Glass, if you could take a moment and look at this page, read it to yourself, do not read aloud, and look up when you're done. Has your memory been refreshed as to the legal name of Kobe?
Yeah.
And what is Kobe's legal name?
Objection.
What's the objection?
Sorry, Your Honor, I withdraw.
Jacoby Mills.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Jacoby
And if you could repeat the last name for the court provisional.
Mills.
All right, I'm going to continue to publish date 7. There is a second individual at the red Mitsubishi vehicle. Do you recognize that second individual?
Not really, no.
Okay. How about the individual that is standing at the gray Jeep?
That's sad.
Okay. I'm going to continue to publish. I'm pausing at timestamp 2:18:21. Do you see that individual who's walking away from the Mitsubishi Jeep?
I see him there.
Do you recognize him?
That's 80.
Okay. And again, I'm going to ask you for AD's legal name.
I know his last name, Davis.
Okay. Would looking at your statement refresh your recollection as to his legal name?
I guess so.
Honor, permission to approach.
Can I have same statement?
Yes, Judge. Approaching the witness. Mr. Glass, same procedure. If you could take a look at that and look up.
We already know the name. Judge won't be the same.
No. Without speaking, has your memory been refreshed as to AD's legal name?
Yes.
Okay. What is AD's legal name?
Adrian Davis.
Continuing to publish, date 7. Mr. Glass, let me know if I need to rewind the video, but you had a chance to look at the face of the individual wearing what appears to be a white shirt and blue shorts?
It's me.
Okay. Continuing to publish. I'm pausing the video at 2:18:41. Do you see that individual carrying something across his shoulder, wearing what appears to be a blue jacket?
Say it again?
Do you see that person on the video?
Yeah, I see the back of his head.
Do you see the back of the head of the person wearing the jeans jacket?
Correct.
Was that person the same person that you previously identified in states?
Sustain, rephrase it.
Okay. We previously looked in state 72 at an individual you identified as Melly.
Objection, Your
Sustain.
Honor.
One moment. Publishing state 72.
Ask and answer, Your Honor.
There's no question pending.
What's your question? Do you see the jacket in states 72, image number 3? The front of that jacket?
Yeah.
You see that jacket in states image 1 of state 72.
I see the same thing y'all see.
We spoke about this, Mr. Glass.
Understand that,
Excuse me.
but understand that.
You ask questions, all right?
I'm asking questions, Mr. Glass, and I'm just asking you to respond if you have knowledge. Is that jacket that was in image number 1 and image number 3 the jacket that Melly was wearing on October 26th of 2018?
To the best of my knowledge,
To the best of your knowledge, yes or no?
yes.
Publishing state 7. And then go. Oh. 72. For you? Okay. Back to state 7, timestamp 2/18/41. The individual that's on screen wearing a jacket and it appears to be something across his back. Who is that individual?
Objection, ask and answer.
Overruled.
Mr. Glass, you can respond.
I see the same person as last time.
Okay, and can you tell us who that same person is?
Melly.
Continuing to publish.
Ask a question y'all know the answers to.
Mr. Glass, you can't speak when there's not a question. Mr. Glass, do you see that individual carrying something in their left hand? I'm asking if you see them, just if you see them.
Yes.
Do you recognize that person?
Of course.
Okay, and who is that person?
Christian Thomas.
Mr. Glass, can you identify for the record, and I know there's a video, but can you identify which vehicle you got into?
Red Mitsubishi.
And can you tell us who was in that car with you?
Kobe, Tay, and 80.
So, AD, Tay, and Cody. Is that a yes?
Yes.
So that is a total of 4 people.
Correct.
And in the vehicle to the left of the screen, the Jeep, who entered that vehicle to your knowledge?
Everybody else that was there. Zach, Melly, Juvy, Cortlen.
Okay. And by my count, is that also 4 people,
Correct.
right? And when those, okay. Continuing to publish at 219:36. I'm going to stop at 219:46. At the time you left the studio in that red Mitsubishi, where were you headed?
Supposed to be home.
Okay, and who's home?
It's Melly house.
Okay, and was everybody in that red car headed to Melly's house?
To the best of my knowledge.
Okay, and what about the Jeep? Where was your understanding that that Jeep was headed? The gray Jeep.
Same spot.
So both cars left the studio with the intention of heading to what you identify as Melly's house.
Correct.
Can you tell us, I guess, what was the mood or the vibe at the studio while you guys were there?
It's 5 years ago. Can't tell you nothing right now.
Okay, if you don't recall, that's fine. Was there any physical confrontation that you observed at the studio?
Looks like a regular day.
Okay.
Studio, smoke and drink.
All right. And you just mentioned smoking. What were you smoking, specifically you?
Weed.
Okay. All right. And now the vehicles, we saw that the gray vehicle on the video pulled off first. Can you tell us where you guys, the route you guys took to the best of your knowledge?
I can't tell you because I don't know.
Okay. Do you recall getting on a highway at all?
I recall being in the car while I was driving. I don't know where. I don't know. I don't.
Okay. Were you awake the entire time you were in that vehicle?
I wasn't.
Okay. Do you know at what point you fell asleep?
I don't.
All right. And when you left the studio, you were awake. Is that a fair statement?
I was.
And at what point do you recall waking up, or what time do you recall the next thing you saw?
Motor came to a stop
All right. And where did you come to a stop?
at the house gate.
And the house gate for Melly's house.
Yeah.
When you got to the house gate at Melly's house, who was inside your vehicle, the red Mitsubishi?
Same people you seen get in the car.
All right. So by your testimony, Kobe, AD, Tay, and yourself.
Yes.
Okay. So still 4 people.
Still 4 people.
Do you recall how you guys entered the gate?
The gate was open for us.
And publishing states 47. I'm going to pause it at timestamp 3:49, it looks like 58. Do you recognize that red Jeep? Mitsubishi?
I do.
Is that the vehicle that you left the studio in?
Yes.
And is this the guard gate you just testified to at
Yes.
Melly's house?
Yes.
And do you see that screenshot at timestamp 3:51:31? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see yourself inside that red Mitsubishi vehicle?
Yes.
And where are you located? Okay. And do you recall going through the gate, going through the procedure of going through the gate?
Yes.
So you get through the gate. Where do you go next?
To the house.
All right. And can you tell us? You pull into the house. Is there a driveway in the house, in front of the house?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other cars parked in that driveway when you get to the house?
No.
All right. Do you see the gray Jeep that you left the studio with at the house?
No.
All right. So what do you do when you get out of the vehicle?
From what I remember, I went upstairs and went to sleep.
Okay. And you said upstairs. So the house is how many stories?
Couple.
Okay. So you went upstairs to where specifically to sleep?
In Juvy's room?
All right. Was Juvy in his room?
Nah.
Okay. Do you recall where Melly's room was in the house?
Not upstairs.
Okay. Do you recall where it was if it was not upstairs?
I think it was like first rooms when you come in the house.
Okay. Was Melly at the house when you got there, from what you can recall?
No.
Did you see Melly at any time in the house?
Nah.
Right. So you go upstairs in Juvy's room, and what do you do?
Crash.
All right. Crash meaning?
Go to sleep.
Okay. At some point, do you wake up?
Yeah.
And why? Or how?
Phone calls.
Okay. Safe to say that your phone was getting a lot of phone calls, blowing up.
Yeah.
All right. And at some point, you answer the phone, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you do in response to the phone calls?
I answered the one that kept ringing, and yeah.
All right. And so what do you do in response to getting that phone call?
I ended up at the hospital.
All right. Do you recall which hospital that was?
No, I don't.
Do you recall what city you were in at this point?
I was in Broward.
All right. What city? Not the county.
Miramar.
Okay. Do you know if you went to Miramar Hospital?
I don't know what hospital it was.
Okay. So you get to the hospital. What do you find out when you get to the hospital?
That Anthony and Christopher was deceased.
Okay. And obviously at that, well, let me not say obviously, but at that point in time, what do you do? Or how do you react to that news?
Grieving.
Okay. Do you stay at the hospital?
Not long.
All right. Where do you go after the hospital?
I ended up somewhere. Somebody's house.
All right. Do you recall whose house that was?
I don't know whose house it was, but I ended up there.
All right. Let's start with the city. Do you recall what city that house was in?
Miramar.
All right. Do you recall if it was in the same or different area than where Melly's house was?
It looked similar.
Okay. And just to clarify, was it the same or different house than Melly's house?
Different.
Okay. Where did you go when you went to that house?
What you mean?
Like, where in the house did you go? So you go to the house. Where do you go?
I went inside the house. I was in the back.
Okay. And would your statement refresh your recollection as to whose house you were at?
Maybe.
Your Honor, permission to approach. I'm going to show defense counsel the same statement. Page 4. Same procedure, Mr. Glass. If you could just review page 4.
see nothing about the house.
If you could just read the entire page, and when you're done, let me know. Have you finished reading that page?
Yeah.
Is your memory good refresh as to whose house you were at?
Still don't see nothing about no house in there.
Okay. I'm going to now show you what's in evidence in state 62. Do you recognize the individuals in state 62?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Who are those individuals?
Melly and another dude, Fredo.
Okay. You said Melly and another dude, Frito?
Yeah.
Do you know Frito's name and or any nicknames?
That's all I know about him.
Frito. Do you recall ever going to Frito's house?
Just that time.
And just that time being what time?
After I left the hospital.
Okay. So this. And for the record, what is Frito wearing in the photograph?
A shirt. White shirt.
Okay. So after the hospital, you went to Frito's house.
To the best of my knowledge.
Okay. And what were you doing at the house?
Still grieving.
Okay. Who took you to the hospital?
The cameraman.
Okay. Do you recall his name?
Drew.
All right. And do you recall who took you from the hospital to Frito's house?
Same person.
All right. And before you left for the hospital, or actually, who went to the hospital with you and Drew?
Just Drew.
Okay. Who was at the house, Melly's house, before you left for the hospital?
Same people that was there when we got there.
Okay. And same people being the 4 people that entered the Mitsubishi?
Yes.
Okay. So you're at Frito's house. You mentioned, and I forgot exactly where you were in the house. Did you say where you were?
Drew was wrong.
Oh, no, not Melly's house. Frito's house. Where were you in Frito's house?
Outside.
Okay. And who was at Frito's house when you first got there?
Everybody that wasn't at the house.
Okay. And it's because I don't know who everybody was or is, can you please specify?
Kobe, Melly. The only people I can remember.
Okay. Was that the first time you saw Melly after you guys left the studio?
Yeah.
Was Melly wearing the same clothes or different clothes than when you saw him at the studio?
It was a new day. Nah, he wasn't.
Nah, he wasn't. You guys
He wasn't wearing the same clothes.
Okay. Do you recall what he was wearing?
Just had on some shorts.
Okay. And how long did you stay at Frito Bain's house?
I don't know.
All right. Minutes, hours, days?
Could be minutes, could be hours.
Okay. So not days.
Not even a day.
Okay. And so when you got to Frito's house, was it light or dark outside?
Just like
And you previously said yourself and Melly and someone else was at Frito's house. Was Frito there as well?
I think I did see him. I don't remember.
Okay. What happens while you're there? Like you're there, you're outside, what happens?
Grieving.
Okay. And you're grieving, are you grieving alone?
Yes.
Are you at the house at any point in time? Do more people come to the house, or do people leave the house?
If they did come, I don't know. I was in the back.
Okay.
I was back there breathing.
At any point in time, did Melly leave Frito's house?
It came to the point when I was there by myself.
All right. So you were there by yourself. So the people that you previously said were there were no longer there, correct?
Right.
And so do you know where they went during that time?
I don't.
All right. And we're still talking about October 26th of 2018, correct?
Yes.
And this would be shortly after the hospital?
Yes.
All right. At some point, does Melly come back to Frito's house?
Around this time, I'm still grieving and getting a little, I don't know, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess Melly comes back.
Yeah, I guess they did come back.
Right.
I don't know, I'm not sure.
Okay. And at some point, does Melly leave again, a second time?
I don't remember anything farther after that.
All right.
Me grieving. That was the last thing I remember was me grieving. And I ended up in Gifford.
All right. So before you end up in Griffin, if I were to show you a statement, would that refresh your recollection as to Melly leaving and coming back a second time?
I suppose so.
Under permission to show him his statement again?
Yes, Counsel.
Mr. Glass, I'm going to give you page 5 and page 6. If you can take a look, you can start in the middle and review those pages and look up when you're done. Are you done? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Did that refresh your recollection?
Somewhat.
Okay, so tell us what you somewhat remember.
I just did.
If you recall, you said you weren't sure, you went to Gifford, and then I asked you if your statement would refresh your recollection. Does your statement refresh your recollection as to whether Melly left again?
I'm not sure if they left. I was grieving.
Okay.
I'm not sure what nobody did. I was grieving.
All right. You mentioned, well, not you mentioned, let's see. I pointed out to you someone was, the person that was wearing the jacket that you identified as Melly was carrying something across his side or his back on the video. Do you recall seeing that?
I guess.
Okay. Do you recall what that's referred to?
That's actually.
Okay. Can it also be commonly referred to?
Objection.
Sustained.
Are you familiar with the term man?
Objection.
Watch come sideways.
Did you see that satchel again after you left the studio? Do you know what was in that satchel?
I don't.
Do you recall seeing anyone else with a satchel that night at the studio?
It was 5 years ago. I don't recall.
Okay. Is there anything that can refresh your recollection as to whether or not anybody else was wearing a satchel?
I suppose so.
If I were to show you the video again, would that refresh your recollection?
I Posted.
Publishing states 7. I'm going to start publishing state 7 at 2:19:01. I'm going to pause at 2:19:13. Does the video refresh your recollection as to anyone else that was carrying a satchel?
Yes.
Who, if anyone, was carrying a satchel?
I see Chris for one.
And that's Christopher Thomas.
Yes.
Did you ever have any business relationship with a person referred to as Track?
No,
Okay. Do you know who Track is?
not really.
Not really, or
I don't know who he is at all.
do you know of him?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see Track on October 26, 2018 at any point?
No.
Do you recall giving a statement, specifically the statement that I've previously provided you with here today, to the detectives in this case? You have to answer out loud.
Yes.
That was a statement that you gave to Detective Moretti and another detective, I believe from Indian River. Is that correct?
Could be.
Do you recall in that statement giving a different response when asked?
Stay.
Would showing you that statement refresh your recollection as to anything regarding your interactions with Track on October 26, 2018?
I don't know Track.
No. My question was, would showing you the statement refresh your recollection as to any time you saw Track on October 26 of 2018?
No.
Okay. One moment. You said you ended up back in Gifford at some point in time on October 26th of 2018?
Yes.
And do you recall where Melly was at the time you went to Gifford?
I don't remember.
Was at some point at Frito's house, you guys all leave, meaning you, yourself, everyone that you previously identified was there?
Objection,
I
leaving.
don't recall.
You don't recall leaving?
I don't recall leaving with anyone. I don't know when I left. I don't know how I left.
Okay. just to clarify my question, so you mentioned you left. When you left for Gifford, was anyone else at Frito's house?
I don't know.
Do you recall Melly making any statements in your presence while you were at Frito's house?
No recall.
Would showing you your statement refresh your recollection as to anything Melly told you while you were there?
No recall being told anything. So no.
Okay. You mentioned when they left the first time, you recall them at least leaving one time. Did you recall if when they came back, there were any statements regarding where they went?
Sustain.
No,
Sustain the objection.
don't answer that. So, you remember them leaving the house at least once, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, when they came back, do you recall any conversations that Melly had in your presence that first time, after the first time?
I don't recall.
Would showing you your statement refresh your recollection as to those statements?
No, it would.
All right. Did you have a Facebook page back in October 26th of 2018?
I believe so.
On our coaching council, what's been pre-marked is states quadruple I. Previous is shown. Wish to write the witness?
You may.
Mr. Glass, do you recognize these two pages that I'm showing to you?
Yes, sir.
And is this a Facebook, these statements reflect a Facebook conversation?
They do.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of that conversation that you had on Facebook?
It is.
Right, Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to introduce what's been pre-marked as quadruple I is the next numbered exhibit.
No objection.
I'm sorry?
No objection, Your Honor.
It'll be admitted.
States quadruple I will be marked states 83.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Mr. Glass, can you see that document in front of you?
Yes.
All right. Where it says author, can you read that for the members of the jury?
You want me to read it?
If you can read that, what does it say next to author?
Fargo.
What does it say before Fargo?
Betty Fargo.
Okay, do you see where it says Fetty Fargo?
Let's see.
Okay, and who's Fetty Fargo?
It was me.
Okay, so was that your was that a, how you identified yourself on Facebook?
Kind of, sort of.
And who were you having this conversation with?
Right now, I look like I'm talking to myself. I
Okay.
look like I'm texting myself. I don't know who I sent it to.
Do you see where it says participants?
Okay. So, Chase Melly.
Okay. And that was page 1. I'm going to now publish page 2. I'll publish it in part since it's a little small. Can you see that in front of you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right, I'm going to scroll up. What was the purpose of you having this conversation with Melly, Jamell Demons?
I don't know, just everything was questioned.
When you got to Gifford, were you looking for answers?
Not just me.
Okay. Were people kind of pressing you for answers?
Correct.
And did that have any impact in whether or not you reached out to Melly?
I don't know what you mean by that.
So, and again, you said that people were looking for answers. So, did you reach out to Melly looking for answers?
I did.
Is that the gist of that conversation on Facebook?
Is that just a
Meaning the
conversation?
gist of the conversation, was that the purpose behind the conversation and the general conversation that you had with him?
Yes.
Random moments to confer. Do you know who Jamie King is?
I don't know who she is. I know of.
Okay, you know of Jamie King. Do you know how she's related to Jamell Demons?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Do you know her relationship?
Mom. It's supposed to be his mom.
Okay. Do you know if Jamie King and Anthony Williams had any?
Objection leading.
I wouldn't know none of that.
Rephrase your question.
Do you know the relationship between Jamie King and Anthony Williams?
I don't.
If I were to show you a copy of your statement, would that refresh your recollection?
Nope.
And one moment to confirm. Nothing further at this time.
Counsel, thank you. Is there any cross-examination this witness?
Yes, sir. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Glass. Your Honor, would you mind if we move the monitor from in front of the witness's face?
I don't mind. I mean, I mind.
Would you mind, Your Honor?
I don't mind. Is there a specific issue that you have, Mr.
I do. I do.
Judge, can
So,
we approach sidebar?
sure. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't you step out for a second? Don't discuss the case. Don't form any opinion about the case. Don't allow anyone to discuss the case in your presence, certainly no research. The jury stepped out, Counsel Man, along with the defendant, and assistant state attorneys. So, Mr. Glass, I don't understand. What's the issue?
On this side of my face and show whenever it's seen. Because I'm blind in my left eye, I'm trying not to.
So you don't see out of your left side,
Correct.
left eye?
Correct.
So my thought is, let's try this. Can we, Gary, can you do me a favor? Just move the monitor for a second.
Let's move it out of the way.
Can you do that?
I could do that too. But if as far as this goes,
No,
Attention.
I'm not asking you to detach anything. How much do you put it down?
that's just here.
All right. So, Mr. Glass, is that all right?
Just your courthouse.
Okay. So we can proceed like that. I think that works for everybody. So they show you pictures and things like that. You have to be able to see the monitor too. You understand, Mr. Glass? All right, we ready to proceed?
Yes.
All right, bring jury back in, see if they're ready. All right, we'll be in recess. Mr. Demons, you need a restroom break? No? We're in recess.
Here is that Mr. Glass was reading something from his phone and as Your Honor walked in, talking to someone on the phone. So I would ask the court to inquire as to what he's reading and who he's speaking to while he's on the witness stand.
Judge, I think the only individual who would not be allowed to speak with would be myself and Ms. Smith, so I think that should be the extent of the inquiry.
Thank you. Mr. Glass? All right, you're looking at me now. All right, thank you. I wasn't here. I left the office, left the bench, we're in recess, came back in, and counsel suggested to me that you're on the phone and you read something and you're discussing something on the phone. Is that true?
It's true.
Yes, so did it have anything to do with this case?
Not at all.
So was it some other business or
So it's me texting. So,
you were texting? Were you texting about the case?
about it.
What were you texting?
Texting saying that it's wild, shit wild. That's all I said.
I didn't hear you.
I said things are wild. That's all I said.
Things are wild.
It's wild.
Anything else?
That's it.
And did you have a conversation with someone?
My brother called me and he was concerned, that's all.
Concerned?
Yeah.
Concerned about what? Did you say?
Concerned about who I'm here with and how I got here.
Okay. And anything about the case, facts of the case, your testimony, anything like that? Thank you. All right, so are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Stay ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
All right, can we proceed with jury ready?
Yes, sir.
Howard? Yes, sir. I'm trying to rush you. I'm just trying to get an idea. I know you haven't started. Very entry?
Thank you.
That's all I'm asking.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Please be seated. Let the record once again reflect the presence of the defendant, Mr. Demons, his counsel, and assistant attorneys. During the jury, and all witness, Mr. Glass remains on the stand. Counsel, this is your opportunity for cross-examination. If you're ready, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, Mr. Glass. Morning, sir. I wanted to show you what the state admitted as States 83. You just took a peek at this and identified the participants as being you. You thought it looked like you were talking to yourself because you were the only one typed and there were no responses, at least on the first page, correct?
Objection to counsel testimony.
Sustained.
There are no responses to this, to your text on this first page.
No.
On the second page, the state was discussing that essentially you were inquiring of Mr. Demons Melly what had gone on because you were trying to get information, right?
Yeah.
And you see a conversation here where you get a response. I'm going to direct your attention to
I see it.
that statement. It says, I show them niggas more love than their parents, right? You see that?
I see it, bro.
Okay, thank you. And the next statement by the next message in sequence is again from Melly, and it says TF. What does that mean?
You tell me.
Okay. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Okay. So you were having a conversation and you didn't understand the
I don't know what
response.
TF means.
Okay. You didn't understand that response. Correct?
Just said it.
Okay. And then there's another one that says, man, tell them fuck that. If they think I did some shit like that, we can go to war. Nigga, you know I would never do nothing like that. See that?
I see it.
Okay. So, Stated mentioned that you got arrested recently and charged criminally. Correct?
Correct.
And on May 30th, not too long ago, of this year.
Yeah.
And one of the charges that was made against you was obstruction of the service of the execution of a search warrant. You're aware of that?
I am now.
Pardon me?
I am now.
Okay. So you got charged and you had no idea what you were charged with?
Correct.
Okay. And you are now out on pretrial release?
I bonded out, sir.
Okay. And while you were on bond, you are of the opinion that if you don't come here,
I'll be in jail.
Objection, Your Honor, apology.
That's the only reason I am.
Excuse me. What happens is when they make an objection, just wait before you answer. Objection notice overruled. Proceed.
Gotcha.
you're of the impression that if you don't come here and sit in that chair and testify, you're going to go to jail.
Correct.
Okay. There are several instances in which Ms. Smith, prosecutor, that questioned you, showed you a statement that you previously gave. Remember that?
Yes.
And you told us, you remember seeing me in a deposition not too long ago.
I said what?
You remember seeing me last week, on Friday.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay. And you recalled at the time that your statement to the detectives was a few days after the incident.
You say, do I recall?
That's what your recollection was at the time,
Yes.
a couple of days after.
A couple of days after.
And now after seeing the statement, you realize that it was 4 months later, right?
You say what?
The statement you gave to police was that
You're telling me it was 4 months?
it was
Or
4
you're
months
asking
ago.
me?
Pardon me?
You telling me or asking me?
I'm asking.
make sense. For you to ask me if I told you it was 3 to 4 days after they died, why are you asking me if it was 4 months if I just told you?
Okay. So, in the statement that you gave to police back then, you claimed that you had gotten into the red vehicle in the rear seat, right?
It's 5 years ago. To the best of my knowledge, yeah, that's what I said.
You're saying the statement was a few days after, right?
What did you
The statement that you gave to the police was a few days after the incident,
Yes.
and you said then that you had gotten into the rear of the red vehicle.
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And then you watched this trial unfold on TV over the last couple of weeks, right?
No.
You didn't watch any of this
I
trial?
watched it, but I didn't watch it unfold or whatever you're trying to say.
Okay. You watched this on TV, this trial?
On my phone.
Okay. And you saw a video of yourself get into the red vehicle, right?
Correct.
And you learned that the statement that you gave a few days after the incident was wrong.
Because I said I was in the back and I was in the front.
Yes, exactly that.
That piece.
Yes, that piece.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, so your recollection had begun to fail you only a few days after the incident,
Objection.
as regards that issue, at least.
Objection to counsel testifying or perjury.
You forgot where you sat in the vehicle a few days after.
Objection to counsel testifying.
Overruled.
You can answer
Answer what?
that question. Is that correct,
Did
sir?
I forget?
Did you
Or
forget?
did I have made a mistake and say I was in the back and remember that I was in the front?
So when you told the law enforcement officers that you had gotten into the back of the vehicle a few days after the incident,
That's what I thought, to the best of my knowledge.
that's what you thought? Okay. And when you got to Melly's house that morning, you had a key?
Did you have a key?
No, I didn't. Did you?
No, I didn't.
Who had a key?
I don't know.
You know of anybody having a key to Melly's house?
I don't know.
Okay. But you did gain entrance to that house that morning when you were leaving after you left the studio.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said you just went and crashed and went to sleep in Juvy's room. Right?
Factual.
Okay. And you were awakened by your friend Drew.
I did not say that.
Were you awakened by your friend Drew?
I said I was waiting by phone calls.
Okay. On February 26th of 2019, when you actually gave your statement to law enforcement, do you recall this question and this answer?
Objection to improper impeachment.
Sustained.
On that day, you told the police that Drew woke you up.
Objection to improper impeachment.
Sustained.
I don't recall.
Oh.
Excuse me, I sustain the objection.
Okay. On, Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
Did you ever make a statement differently where you claimed that you were awakened by Drew?
Objection, counsel testifying to proper impeachment.
Overruled. Do you understand the question, sir?
I don't even remember getting asked a question.
All right, restate your question.
Did you ever make a statement to the police?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall now being asked this question and giving this answer?
Objection to improper impeachment.
Overruled.
Question by the detective then. And so when you first saw Drew, when did you see him? Where did you see him at? Your house or Fredo's house? Answer, at the house in Miramar. At Melly's house. Okay. He woke me up. It was like, come to the hospital. You said that.
I don't recall.
Don't recall. Okay. When we spoke to you last week, you said you were awakened by phone calls from Christopher Thomas's mom, right?
Plenty of phone calls.
And, pardon me?
Different people.
Different people. And the one that you answered was Ricky? So you were awakened by a phone call from Ricky?
To the best of my knowledge.
So as you recall it today, Ricky is the one that woke you up with phone calls, not Drew that woke you up in person.
Correct.
Okay. So you smoke a lot of marijuana, right?
Possibly.
Well, you smoke it anytime you get a chance, I think is how you phrase it.
It's your answer. Yeah.
That was your answer.
I smoke when I smoke.
You smoke when you smoke?
Yeah.
And when's that?
When I smoke.
And when was that?
When I smoke.
How many times a day?
Objection to asked and answered.
Overruled.
Twice. 3 times, maybe.
Okay. And on the night before you got to the studio, on the day in question, you had smoked at least 2 joints, right?
I sure guess.
That's what you said, right?
I don't recall.
Okay. And when you got to the studio, you were smoking, correct?
Possibly.
Were you or weren't you?
It was 5 years ago.
You forget?
I don't recall.
Okay. And you were drinking Hennessy, I believe? Or do you not recall that either?
It's possible.
Possible. But you don't recall?
I don't.
Okay. So you don't recall much from that night, then, do you? Right? Fair?
Right.
Okay. And when you got in the red vehicle and left, you went to sleep in the vehicle when you left the studio. Right?
Yeah.
And you didn't wake up until you got to the guard gate.
I woke up when we came to a stop.
You did not wake up until you got to the guard gate. Am I right or wrong?
I woke up when we came to a stop.
Okay,
Which was at the guard gate, yes.
Okay. One moment. With respect to your daily. Right. You've never seen Melly with a gun.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Move to strike.
Here's disregard the last question.
Have you ever seen Melly with a gun?
Objection, Your
I
Honor.
sustain the objection.
Have you ever seen him track with a gun?
Possibly. Yes. Maybe. Maybe so.
You don't know of any friction between Melly and Anthony Davis at any time, Anthony Williams at any time.
Not that I know of.
And you don't know of any friction between Melly and Christopher Thomas at any time.
Not that I know of.
And you don't know of any friction that occurred at the studio that night that would cause anybody to get murdered.
Objection, Your Honor. Call for speculation.
Sustained.
You didn't see any friction at the studio that night of any magnitude?
I did it.
You did?
I did it.
Okay, you did. With respect to your daily marijuana regimen, did you smoke before you came here today?
I did not.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you.
I should have.
Counsel, is there any regret?
One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Glass, did you live in Broward County back in October of 2018?
I did not live here.
Okay. When did you come in relation to this incident to Broward County?
I was picked up probably, I don't know, I was picked up on the weekend or something like that.
So how would you, I guess, date how long you were here prior to the incident? Time frame.
3 days, 2 days?
Okay. So you were not a full-time resident of Melly's residence?
I was not.
Okay. Nothing further.
Is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down. You are excused. It's 12 o'clock, so ladies and gentlemen, why don't we take our lunch and recess now? It looks like it's over after 12. Remember the admonition, do not discuss the case, don't form any opinion about the case, don't allow anyone to discuss the case in your presence. And certainly no research. We'll see everybody back at, let's say, 1:30. All right? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Keep your own heads on cheers. Thank you. Let the record reflect the jury stepped down. Counsel ran along with the defendant. Anything to discuss, counsel?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. We're on recess.